All right. Hi, everybody. It's Vivek here from Meaningful Ideas and GentleParentsUnite.com. And I'm here with my best friend and my daughter, Veets.
Hello, hello.
And we are here to talk about our life together and what it's been like and the radical nature of it and why it's been radical. And we are very excited to do so. It's the first time we're doing this. You've been on the podcast a couple of times.
Yep.
Talking with Sujai and I. Sujai, by the way, is my business partner and wise colleague and best friend. I love her. And but we haven't done live before.
First one.
This is the first one. We've been talking about it for a while.
Terrifying.
Is it? That's good. Tell me why.
I don't particularly like doing public speaking things, even though it's just us two and like a camera here.
Right.
It's still, who knows how many people are watching at the moment or going to be watching.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing it.
No worries.
I appreciate it.
It's
Actually,
interesting.
I'm curious. I'm curious right off the bat. Nothing. We have some questions written down. This is not even that. But when you know that you have the fear, then why are you doing it?
I like to try new things if it's not too far out of my comfort zone. One of my favorite sayings is seek discomfort. So I try to go outside of my comfort zone, not too far at first, or sometimes way too far.
Right.
There's no real in between there. And then just try something.
And so, but you don't want to go too far because then it's like traumatizing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to go not too far because then you're not stretching yourself as much as you want. I like that.
This is probably a good starting point for having to do public speaking, if I knew to do any public speaking. Right. I guess this is public speaking.
Yeah.
Not public speaking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're not on a physical stage.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
Still a stage in its own right.
We still kind of are. Yeah, exactly. And hey, look, people are showing up in the comments already. That's wonderful. It's so nice to see all of you there. I actually forgot we were all live there for a second as we were just talking. That was so great. So first of all, I just want to say part of the reason we're doing this is because from the very beginning of Veets' life, my wife and I decided to raise her, grow her up, grow alongside her in a very different way from normal. And so I thought I would share a couple of ideas about what I think was different. And maybe you could share a couple of ideas about what you think was different. And we'll do that because I think it'll be good for people who don't know us. A lot of people know us, which is lovely, because I talk about you all the time. But a lot of people don't. So one of the things is from the very beginning, when I looked into those eyes when you were first born, when she was born, I was like right there. And I knew like I could never punish you. I could never give you a consequence or use any kind of force or any kind of manipulation. I just saw I saw your spirit, and I wanted to honor that, and I didn't want to ever diminish that, And so we didn't do any punishments. We didn't have rules. And a rule is defined as like you set a standard in place usually from the authority, and then you hold that in place with a consequence. And because if they break the rule, then there's some kind of discomfort at least, right? Or disconnection at least that happens. And we're like, nah, we're not doing any of that. And so everything that we did was with communication and collaboration and a lot of deep listening. And so it's very different from what I think a lot of society was doing at the time. So it was very interesting. And when you look back over it, what do you think? What stands out for you as far as like what feels different?
I guess for me it was just the normal way of life. But when my friends would see us interacting and all that, and then vice versa, I would see them interacting with their parents, I would see a little bit. And then also the third relationship, them acting with you as well. I would see a different type of look in their eyes and feel in their body, I guess, where they felt a little more, and me felt a little more comfortable to talk and whatever, I guess, because we felt like we were safe, in a safe space. And they still felt safe with their parents, of course, because they loved them and everything.
Right,
but there was some sort of different something or the other. I can't really picture it. I guess it's just the open feeling of not being looked down upon subconsciously or something.
Yeah, sometimes consciously.
Sometimes
it's really obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know with some of your friends, some of the stories were pretty hard to hear. And I notice a lot of the time when your friends would come over and we would just interact the way we do when any of us comes home. Because when any of us comes in the door, there's like this little celebration we all do. You know, the person's come in and we're all glad to see them, even if it's the same time every day. It still kind of happens. And the same when we leave, it's the same kind of thing. Like everybody kind of gathers at the door, whoever's leaving, going. It's a tradition that just evolved organically over time, right?
It's nice.
And so when you come in and you had a friend with you, sometimes they'd be so in shock at how we just interact naturally. They would just stand in the foyer for like 5 minutes before they would even take their shoes off or take their backpack off. And love that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now when they come in, they're just feel part of the family, which is nice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and we go on walks with some of your friends and stuff like that, which is nice. Would you have to do that again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I actually have a video on my YouTube channel with one of your friends, Jagjit, who's one of our, part of our family, like you said. And the two of us were talking. We were talking about like our place in the universe. He came in one day and asked me what I was thinking about, because I'm always thinking about something. And I said I was thinking about our place in the universe. Like, here I am, this one individual on a planet, and the planet's in a solar system, and the solar system's in the galaxy, and the galaxy's in like a cluster of galaxies. But then you have clusters of galaxies called superclusters, and there's probably bigger clusters than that we can't even conceive. Yeah. And here I am, this one little thing. How have I got any relevance, you know? And then I was thinking, yeah, but if I'm not relevant because of my size, that means every individual point is also not relevant because of its size. That means everything is not relevant.
Or everything's relevant.
Or everything's relevant. That's exactly it. That's the whole video. Us talking about that.
It's a good too long didn't read kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's how it was different. How when you went to other people's places and you had that kind of moment of shock of seeing how they were interacting, or I don't know if it was shock. I put words in your mouth, but like, what was your experience when you do you remember first going over to other people's places and seeing them with their parents? And
when I went to people's houses, it was more in middle school and elementary school, and at that time it was very chill. All the parents were very somewhat like-minded to us as well, so I didn't feel much of a shock there. They were very, very welcoming and open and stuff.
Well, that's good you had that experience.
Yeah,
I guess we kind of families attract each other like that too, right?
And in high school I didn't go over to anyone's houses. We all just studied.
Right. High school is intense.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to another topic. Although they're all interrelated, because life is an integrated system.
Yep.
As we always talk. So one of the things that I, as someone who's been teaching this stuff for a long time, one of the questions that I get a lot is, if you don't give your kids consequences, how are they going to learn to deal with consequences in real life? And then they're going to go to a job, and if they don't do their job, there's a consequence, and they need to be prepared for the job. Now, first of all, personally, I don't think preparing someone for a job is the highest point of parenting, but also it's part of life, and you want to help your kids succeed, and so like that's fine. I accept that's part of it. But I've never thought that giving consequences actually helped with that. Of course, and we never did that. Maybe a couple of times in the first year when we were trying to figure stuff out, and we were like, didn't know what the hell we were doing. You've often said that you're a guinea pig.
Yep.
And you carry the weight of some of those mistakes, so thank you. But now you're in the workforce, and you have been for a while in a few different kinds of jobs. I'm curious how you feel dealing with those kind of environments where there are some consequences, how you deal with that, and how you've navigated being in a job, and what skills have like helped you in that. And because it seems so obvious that you need consequences, but we haven't really done things that way. So
I can't really think about how I was prepared for the consequences. I guess because I felt like mistakes are just a part of life. It was okay to make a mistake, and there wouldn't be a consequence. Something that I would feel blamed for. And then somehow I was able to make it through school feeling the same way. Other things affected me in school, but it wasn't so much feeling blamed or consequences and stuff like that. And then at work, I worked in retail for my first major job, I guess.
Yeah.
And people there were so scared to make mistakes because they felt like they got major consequences and like yelled at and stuff by the district manager. And like every week, if we didn't sell enough for like to hit our certain quota, we'd have to write an apology email and say how we would improve the next week. And like, or every month or whatever.
Oh goodness.
And even though I sold the most, but my like items weren't the most, I'd have to write one every single month. And I just couldn't stand that job because of that. And then the feel of this pressure and consequence. And then after I left that job, I had to heal for 1.5 years. And then the pandemic hit, which was nice in a relative way for me to heal my own pains and stuff from that job.
Right.
And then I got another job, which is I'm working in HR as an administrator to help sort their files and whatnot. And it feels like I should have more pressure and more consequences working here.
Right.
But every time I've made a mistake, small or semi-big, not really anything, they're like, it's okay. You make mistakes. It's about learning. You're new. And I'm like, wow, thanks. This is so nice. They trust the process and they know that you're human and that, like, you make a mistake, you say, my bad, and just fix it. Right. And then everyone goes on.
And you learn from it and you go on.
Yeah. And it's been really nice to have that weird opposite contrast between a job that should feel like it would have major angry consequences, but they don't really care.
Right, because there's like a lot more at stake. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a big firm.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the other one's a corporation, though, and it's been it's been weird to have the two comparisons, but nice.
Yeah, for sure, because it shows you pretty clearly the working environment, the human environment. That's different, you know. Yeah,
everyone's very kind and humanized and humanizing at this place.
Yeah, and that really gets me. I really appreciate you sharing that because it's true that there are jobs like that out there, but I don't think that we want to deaden our kids to the injustice of that just so that they can survive it. I mean, you survived it for like 2-3 years anyways, right? Yeah. And so like when you came along, we decided it didn't matter what you did, what your behavior was, we were going to see that same kind of person. So you never got like more approval from us when you did something kind and less approval from us when you did something that traditionally would be thought of as unkind. You know, you just had the same amount of approval, the same embracing. Would you agree with that generally?
I guess so. Yeah. I can't really see a difference between the two, so I guess it worked out that way.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That was the intention. So since you weren't like praised for being, oh, you're so good, you're such a good person, and then like, oh, why did you do that? Don't you know how the other person might feel? You never got any of those things. Yeah. I want to brush my teeth even after just saying those things. So then my question is, if you didn't have the force and the manipulation or the expectation even to be kind, why do you think it's important to you to be kind?
For me, it's a bigger picture type of deal. It's like the world sucks a lot of the time. So like when a person meets me or sees me, just eye contact, I try to give them just one little nice moment for the day. I remember a couple weeks ago or something, I was in the elevator and this lady was wearing a really awesome shirt with a bunch of cassette tapes of awesome bands from whenever, in the 80s or 70s or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, just as she got off the elevator, I was like, that's an awesome shirt. And she was like, oh, thanks. Oh, that's so cute. And I could hear her smile, and I was like, awesome.
That's so great.
Yeah, I just love the shirt, so I wanted to let her know. And she was so happy about it after. So that's that one little kind spark of the day for her. She might remember that for the month or something. Right.
You know, there were so many times when we would kind of do those kind of things in life. Like there were times we would stop and help we'd help just the street over, help the guy with his shovel the driveway. Remember that? We pulled the car over and we both got out and shoveled the driveway. And there have been lots of times we've been in situations where like one person's like, I'm going to attack another or something, and I jump in the middle of it. You know, even when you were very young, I would say, stay here. And you'd see me go in and like jump in the middle, and I've stopped a lot of violence from happening that way. Thank goodness for the martial art. And then when we go to like grocery stores and stuff, and the way I interact with the cashiers and everything, I always try to model like treating people that way, I also have, complained about people that are really on my nerves and who I want to shake. But,
in the moment, you're still okay with them,
right?
And then after you complain about them, and if you see them again, then you're still kind.
Right, right. That's what I try and do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also don't want to repress my emotions.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've tried to do that, and I'm curious if do you remember those kind of things? Do they impact you that you consciously remember, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd say I totally remember one of the fights when I was young that you stopped. There was a woman chasing after another woman with a pair of scissors.
Yes.
And you got in the middle of it.
Right.
I was like 5 or something. You said, "Stay here," and then you stopped it.
Yeah.
And then
Awesome.
that made me remember trying to help people resolve conflicts, and then seeing you be so kind to the cashiers and stuff. I try to do the same thing because you could see that the little bit of humanization, kindness for the day really impacts them. Just brightens their mood a little bit, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we can give without a lot of cost, right?
It's an extra 3 words or something in the sentence.
I remember one of the things that I've learned to do is if I see a thing on a grocery on the floor in the grocery stores, I'll pick it up and I'll put it back, and I'll even make sure I put it back in the right spot. And it's because when you and I were in the store one day, and I remember we walked by a loaf of bread or something that was on the floor. And I didn't pick it up, and you said, well, we should pick that up. Or maybe I dropped it and I was going to leave it there. I was like, I'm too tired, And you're like, we should pick it up because someone that works here who makes minimum wage is going to have to come here and pick this thing up. And even if you misshelve it, they're still going to have to notice it and reshelve it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is a kinder thing to do, And I always did that. After that, I really took that on, and I really appreciated that. So, and I think that part of the reason I'm mentioning that is that our learning has always been mutual. From the time you were born, I was like, this is a divine being with the wisdom of the infinite. I have to learn from them. What do you know? Tell me everything you know.
Totally, yeah.
And you felt that all the way along too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something. I mean, I wasn't going to ask about that, but I'm curious what your thoughts are about that feeling of mutuality, of learning together.
I guess it's like a childrenized way of treating them like an adult, because adult learning is always 2 ways. You notice something your friend did, then you give them a little feedback, and vice versa. They'll see something you did, give you a little feedback, and you've grown together, kind of thing, I guess. And then you kind of did the same as a baby. You'd see what I did in certain ways, pick up a loaf of bread. I'd see you say, "Have a good day" to the cashier as a 4-year-old, and then do it now that I'm 20 or whatever.
Right.
20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that description of friendship that it's so good that we notice things in our friends because we look at them, because we care about them, because we understand their values. I mean, my friends understand my values pretty well, because I'm their friends, and so I share those things with them. I don't share that with everybody. I mean, technically I do share with everybody because I go live all the time and I write about everything. But my friends know me and the people I talk to on a regular basis. They know my values, and so to do that with a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old is quite something,
Mm-hmm.
And it creates that same friendship relationship. And I like the way you described how you grow with each other, because it's like a spiral. You're building on each other.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. Yeah, my friend Tanya, whom I love very much, she says in our relationship, like her and I, she feels like she can do no wrong. And one of the things that I teach a lot about in the parenting world is no wrongness. It doesn't matter what your kid does, don't project wrongness on them, because wrongness never helps. It always makes us feel shame and a problem. But then they're like, well, how are they going to know what's wrong and what's right? And so it's similar to the kindness question. It's kind of 2 embedded questions. If you never were told what's right or wrong, or told what you had to do, and criticized when you didn't do something that was right, how do you know what's right, and why do you do what's right?
It definitely follows along the same model path, because I'd see in a super simple term, if someone punched someone in the face, they'd have a frowny face. And if someone gave someone a hug, they'd have a happy face. So I guess I would see that throughout life and movies and TV shows and you guys, friends, family. And then also if I did something off because I didn't know, you or someone, probably you or mom, would explain it and say, this is why this person felt this way. Would you want to feel that way? But like in a way that made me think about it and understand and remember that I don't want that person to also feel that way. Because I wouldn't want to feel that way. So I'd want to give them a happy face and not that frowny face that they had because I said is instead of was or whatever kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like gender misgendering and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it can be a word that you say.
Yeah.
That means a difference to someone. Yeah, I like that. I like very simple, stark examples. The punching in the face gives the frowny face. And the hug gives the happy face.
Yeah.
And so something, but see, that's the thing, right? Something in you wanted to contribute to the happy face, not the frowny face. And you, the thing about kids finding their own value system is that's not something like that. Preference isn't something that I could force on you. I could live that preference myself. I can demonstrate it. But if I tell you, if you do that, it's better, and if you don't, it's worse, and you should, and we won't accept you as much, then you're going to be trying to work around our acceptance, not around the issue itself, right? And I wanted you to find that inner compass for yourself, so it wasn't a replication of mine or mom's.
Yeah, I think I was looking more at the person I'm talking to's feelings, I guess. I guess it's empathy. I guess I learned empathy from a young age. Kind of how that works. And then that helped me, I don't know entirely. It's probably something to do with empathy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm pretty empathetic towards people and understanding. Even if I wouldn't do the thing, I can kind of see where they're coming from, even if it's a sucky thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I would definitely let them know it's a sucky thing in some sort of way. I would still understand why they're doing that or why they're saying that, probably.
Right. That way you can share the idea without the wrongness.
Yeah.
Right? Because you understand why they did it, and they feel that from you. So when you talk about it, they're like, oh, it's safe to talk about those kind of things. Yeah, that's the thing. When the wrongness comes out, it's amazing how people will open up. You used to say even in your retail job, people would come in and they would end up telling you their life stories.
Yeah. I'd meet with a customer, I'd hope for 5 minutes, but then I'd just get into the conversation and be like, why would you do that? I'm like, oh, crap. No, I have to work. And then we're there for like 2 hours talking about their life and their problems and their happy things. It's fun.
I love that. And because people want an open, accepting space to express themselves and to share themselves,
Yeah.
And this is why parenting in the gentle parenting way and the conscious parenting way, or what I have been calling lately, because it's the most accurate description, is the non-coercive collaborative parenting. The non-coercive is the don't do, and the collaborative is the do-do. It's the don't do and the do-do. And one of the reasons for that is it gives that space from the beginning, where you can be yourself and you can, when someone shares something with you, and it's received deeply, it feels so good, you know? Like, that's another thing. Like, today I was getting I finished my box of tea, and I was getting the next one from the cupboard. And it was up in the very top of the cupboard. I couldn't reach it, and I didn't want to get a chair. So I grabbed this long knife that has these little spins on the end, and I stabbed the box, and I pulled it down. And I was so proud of doing this. I ran into the other room where Vitz and her mom were, and I said, look what I did. I stabbed the box of tea. And we were all laughing and cheering for it. And I just felt so received, and so much joy for such a simple thing. And it's those little simple things in life that we've worked on all throughout the years that I think one of the things that's made our experience, brought us together in the way that it has, and so that experience of feeling received like that for little moments And it's still genuine. We're not like making a thing up. You know, we're all like, oh wow, that's amazing. You know.
Yeah. You're saying one of your acronyms is SMABO, small moments affect big ones. I think about that all the time because a very small moment is a very big thing sometimes. You see a snail crawling across the floor, it's cool. You can take a picture, you get down on its level, you see where its path is or whatever. I love taking pictures of things. That's a really cool picture. Mushrooms. My partner takes pictures of mushrooms whenever she sees them. They're awesome. Like, there's so many different varieties out there, and they're just everywhere. You take a cool picture of that, and then you're like, at the end of the week, like, oh yeah, I remember when we were at that park. It was High Park, and like and then you just remember that fun time, that fun hour walk or whatever.
Yeah, you can relive the whole thing.
Yeah.
We do a lot of reminiscing too, don't we? Yeah, we're always like looking, hey, this is from last year, we took that walk, and we like, all of a sudden it's a half hour later.
Exactly.
Looking at it. Since you mentioned your partner, who's absolutely wonderful and whom I love very much, the two of you are moving in together, which is also very exciting. And we were just talking about SMABO. Do you use SMABO in your relationship?
Probably unconsciously. Yeah, we're very about the small, simple, fun moments, funny moments. We really take in those small moments, I guess, because we didn't think both of us had a very similar school path, and because of how serious our schools were, we had to only focus on the bigger picture of getting to university, studying, passing the test, doing the sports, whatever. And now that we're out of it, we can see that, wow, we should have hobbies, because I need to take care of myself, because hobbies are awesome. And they help heal me at the end of the day or end of the week or whatever. And then we try to do things together so that we can have those small healing moments. We try to paint once a month together. Yeah, it's a fun time listening to music or something, chatting. It's a fun, simple, small moment.
Yeah, you just connect in that vibe together.
Even though it's a long time, it's still a small moment.
Right, absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
And about how is your communication between the two of you? What's your communication patterns like?
Very good.
Yeah.
We were both separately before meeting each other very into communication. We're very serious about voicing our needs and wants and concerns, so that stuff doesn't build up and you're just yelling at each other. Maybe we'll need a couple hours to collect our thoughts or whatever, but it usually doesn't affect us in any way because we've learned we're both here to help each other and listen to each other so that we can grow together and have the best relationship we can.
Yeah, it's such a conscious way to start.
Yeah.
I wish your mom and I had been given that exact speech when we first got married. Our communication patterns took some years to figure out, because again, we didn't have a really good model for that, and we were just trying to figure it out. Two young people trying to figure it out, and do things differently.
Yeah.
I
definitely... Sorry, you go first.
I was going to say our relationship followed that same kind of experimental path. I call it stumbling with purpose, which is my new favorite thing. Yeah,
stumbling
I love it.
With purpose.
When we had an idea...
That's me every day.
But that's exactly it, right? That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's so honest, right? What were you going to say?
I modeled after you and Mom's relationship. That's what I wanted in my future partner.
Right.
Was a very good communication relationship and what I saw with you guys.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
And I feel like I've achieved that, which is nice.
That is nice.
Yeah.
And it's not like your mom and I never argued or had differences, or had difficult times, but we found our way through it, and we communicated with each other, and we learned about each other, and then we'd have epiphanies and we'd grow, and that would help us and do healing of our past stuff. You and Anne have been looking for an apartment recently.
Yeah.
Found one, now moving.
Gosh.
It's exciting and scary at the same time. Yeah.
It took a long time.
Yes.
A lot of effort.
Yes. And I remember I mentioned to you that it's important to pay attention to the relationship while you're doing a big practical thing too. I knew you kind of already knew it, but I wanted to share the idea with you.
Yeah.
And I talked about the lopsided tricycle, which I asked Mom if she would draw a lopsided tricycle for me. And so the lopsided tricycle is when you have, when you're dealing with any project or any communication or any interaction really, even at the grocery store, you think of the three tricycle wheels. One is the content, which you're talking about. So content might be how are you, or the content might be how are we going to do this project, or the content might be let's do a search for a 2-bedroom apartment, or it might be can you get me a glass of water. Whatever the content is, that's the content. Or pick up your shoes, and then pick up your toys. And then the second layer is the emotional. What's the emotional experience that's happening? So like you said, changing was to is can change the emotions of an experience, right?
Yeah.
So you want to tune in, what's the emotional experience happening? So even a glass of water can be, can you get me a glass of water? Or, hey, can you get me a glass of water? Or, sure, I'll get you a glass of water. Or, I'd love to get you a glass of water. Like, it affects the emotional experience, right? Or, get your own water. Or, I'm really tired. Could you get your own water? Would you mind? Or give me a few minutes to stretch first.
Yeah.
And then the third wheel is the relational experience. And relation's a little different than emotional, because I can be perfectly fine and not like you, right? That's not true, but it could be perfectly fine and not like you.
Yeah.
So actually caring for the relationship is important too. And so in every interaction, there's that. And then when you go through it, your mom and I put together the treadmill over there. And every time something didn't work, we'd get frustrated. We'd get the screw on going there. And sometimes that frustration would leak out on the other person. And I'd be like, and then every single time, one of us would stop and we'd go hug it out. Well, I'm not frustrated at you. I'm sorry I talked that way. And really make sure that we're caring for all three wheels at the same time, And it sounds like that is kind of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely tried to not let our frustrations leak onto the other person. If we needed time alone or something, we would just ask for it and separate ourselves a bit. We like to be alone when we need to process our emotions, and we both understand that. Kind of like you and Mom hugging it out, but we don't always do that. So then we would just separate for like an hour or two, do our own thing a little bit, listen to a podcast, watch some Netflix, and then come back together, have some dinner, cuddle and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we'd be able to process our emotions and everything, and it wouldn't leak out onto the other person, and we just continue with our communication.
Yeah.
And nice time.
That's so conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you had an experience where you've actually talked about a difficult emotion, or like this was hard for me when you said this, or have you had conversations like that?
Totally. Yeah. And then either of us changes, and then it's just we sometimes ask for a reminder if I say it this way, and then it's just changed because we want the other person to feel safe in our environment,
right? For
the other person and everything.
Because you're creating a shared environment together, right?
Yeah.
And you want it to feel safe for both people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, I'm going to ask you another question. So, because you just mentioned processing your emotions, and I love how these questions are coming out naturally in our conversation. We kind of knew that was going to happen too. So when kids are very young, they're often told it's okay to be angry, but you can't talk like that, or it's okay to be angry and you can't do that. And some kids are told that their crying is fake, or that their tantrums are manipulation to get what they want, and those kind of things. And for us, our goal and our work, our stumbling with purpose, was always towards really accepting all of your emotions. So when you would cry, we would say we welcome your tears, and when you were happy, we welcome your laughter. And when you're angry, we welcome your anger. And we tried to always have space for all of those things, which meant, of course, we were trying to have space for our own, which is the big challenge. So I'm curious how you feel now as a young adult with your relationship with your emotions and how you process them and how you relate to them, both the good emotions, more positive and more challenging emotions.
The positive emotions, I guess I don't really notice as much because you want to feel happy, so you just kind of don't notice them as much. I try to remember them when I'm like happier than normal. I don't know, my favorite shows come back. I'm going to a concert next week, something like that, Remember those moments.
Right.
The bad ones, bad emotions, I have figured out that I need to sit with my thoughts and emotions for usually 5 days before I can make a decision or figure out what's actually happening. 3 to 5 days. I try not to make any rash decisions during the overly emotional times because I'm not thinking completely clearly at the moment. And I've realized that over many years.
Yeah.
And then seeing you kind of work through your own thoughts, processes, and emotions as well, and then see that lashing out isn't the best way. Lashing out either at someone else or yourself isn't the best way to get through a negative emotion. So just sitting with it for a few days and then letting myself calm down a bit before I can figure out what's actually happening is best.
So there's a calm down period first. Right. And then you actually can do the analysis from a more calm place.
Yeah. Because all the analysis usually is just you suck if it's during the negative time.
Right.
No matter what you say, it'll always just come back to that beginning point. But once you've calmed down from the volcano of sadness or whatever, anger, fear,
right,
then you can like simmer on what's happened.
So you're not trying to push away the anger and the fear or the self.
I want to embrace it. Yeah. I try to embrace it to the best of my ability.
Well, I guess that's a lifelong evolution.
Either embraced or like not push away, but and not. I don't want to like be consumed by it. I don't want to push them away though. I also don't want them to affect me. But I needed to find that balance of embracing them and understanding that these emotions are valid. Emotional regulation, I guess, is the thing, right? Feeling it and understanding that it's okay, but not letting it consume me completely at the same time. And finding that really good balance so I can understand what the course of action that needs to be taken or what has happened to make me feel that way. Both. What's made me feel this way and how to figure out how not to feel this way again. Right. Or a faster way to get over that. Oh, yeah. Because it could happen again depending on what the environment is.
And then you can learn from this experience what worked and what didn't work and improve it for next time. Sounds like science.
Science is great.
Yeah, I love applying the scientific mind to your emotions and how to work with them. You know? Because it's a skill that you can, with reflection, and kind of like that feedback process you mentioned between people. You're kind of doing it for yourself too. Yeah. And you keep learning about yourself, and you keep learning about how to operate the mechanism. Martial arts, we would say the computer and the engine. I think they would say that. In knife fighting, you protect the computer and you protect the engine.
True.
And yeah, that's great. I love that. I love the idea of sitting with your emotions for a long time. I have suffered a lot in not doing so at times. Lost friends and opportunities and things like that. And you know, there was a time recently where you had a really intense emotional experience. And immediately I jumped in wanting to solve the whole problem for you. I was like, do this and do that and do this and do that, and here's a letter and here's who to call. Yeah. and you were like, slow down. I need to process for a bit. Right? I was like, oh, yeah, right. She really likes to process and to really know her emotions and to have a deep relationship with them. And you know, you said it took a while, right, to learn that, which means your life, in a way, you had to go through all sorts of stuff to find that skill. Totally. It's not something that I could have forced on you in a year. There's no way I could have forced that on you in a year or 5 years even, right?
No, it took most of my school years. Yeah. From like kindergarten all the way to grade 13, but I didn't take it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That leap gap year after.
Yeah, for sure. And this is one of the things about, you know, having rules and telling your kids what to do and how they should act and telling them what emotional regulation is rather than helping them find it in their own process and wanting to get it done, is that it doesn't allow for that lifelong exploration. But it wasn't like that lifelong exploration happened and I just kind of like watched you from a distance, right? We were learning about all that stuff together. A lot of it was me sharing my experiences and asking you about it and asking you even for your ideas about it. You know, every time I get into a difficult situation in one of my friendships or relationships, I always come to you and I ask you, like, what should I do? How should I think about this? Yeah. You know, and sometimes you're like, you need to really look inside at what's happening inside of you. It's not about them. I remember that even 10 years ago, I told you I'm getting a lot of criticism online, and you said, it's not, that's their childhood stuff, Dad. It's not about you. And I was like, thank you. I'll always remember that moment. And then, and sometimes you're like, it sounds like you need to hold a boundary, and this person's not good for you, right? And sometimes you're like, well, maybe you need to have a talk with them, you know? And I've had all three of those kind of responses from you, which means you're not just locked into one way of doing things, but you're able to kind of like tune into the experience. And a lot of that came from having to deal with the different things in school.
Totally.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. What?
Well, you I don't know. Let's talk about high school. And you said you had some challenges in high school and how you learned a lot about your emotions and stuff.
School is a very broad topic.
Very broad.
So I needed a little bit more
a lot of years and a lot of different aspects.
Yeah. I guess the thing that pops into my head first when thinking about high school was some of the teachers. They were very stuck in their ways, and whenever a kid would bring up any sort of contradiction or something, usually they wouldn't listen, and then like you just fail kind of thing. Like your test, you don't really get help. You're just told you can't do this. You suck. Why are you in this class? And then stuff like that. Or when you were right, but they didn't want to be wrong, they say that's not correct, even though like scientifically proven. It was like a physics class. There was no other way to do it but the way I had it on, and it was still wrong somehow, even though through the textbook, the internet, and you teaching it, it was correct.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But he said it was wrong. So all through 4 years of high school, I always had at least 2 teachers every year, one each semester usually.
That were similar to that mindset.
Yeah.
And what effect does that have on you? Did that have on you?
Definitely negative.
Yeah.
I would say I felt like giving up. Not really wanting to try anymore. Just do the bare minimum to get past the class so I can just finish the semester, finish the class, but
Survival.
still pass. Survival. Just trying to survive at the bottom of the medium kind of thing. Yeah. So that I can just get through it.
That is not enjoyable. It's not an enjoyable way to learn,
No.
is it?
No.
I often talk about how one of my main focuses all throughout school, but especially in high school, was helping you keep your love of learning alive, which thankfully you do. You love learning and you love understanding life, and you recognize that school is
Broken.
yeah, it's not an effective way to get kids excited about learning
No.
about life and learning about things. But I call it school self-defense. I'm actually writing an article on school self-defense right now about defending against it. Now, I know there are also a lot of lovely teachers out there.
Fantastic.
That really inspire kids.
I had some amazing teachers
Yeah.
through school. I can only really, the bad ones, even though there was only 5 all 12 years of school, I remember those more so than the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has such an impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really something. All right, so talking about school, continuing to talk about school, now focusing on me again, as I love to do. I often say, one of my saying is that I took you to senior kindergarten and you held onto my leg, so I stayed for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And I love putting it that way because it's so fun. But it's true, like I was there all throughout your schooling, up until high school, and then I took a step back. And I was really glad you asked me to take a step back. It was perfect for us. But I was teaching in the class. I'd come in with my guitar in grade 1 and sing to all the kids every week. I bought all the kids recorders at the dollar store and taught them recorders. And I was the chair of the school council. I was in the office talking to the principal like every week. They practically had a cot in there for me. I actually did end up with my own classroom in middle school. All through the schools, I was the coach or assistant coach on all the teams because you played on all the teams. Went on all the field trips up until middle school. And I taught classes. I taught a math class and a science class. I taught a remedial math class and a remedial science class. Hi, Instagram. I taught a math class and a science class. Your grade 8 year, there was no music teacher. I taught the whole grade 8 music program. You assisted me a lot with that, which was super interesting. And
That
fun.
was a weird, fun time.
Weird, fun time, yeah. But I actually taught like 2 full grade 8 music classes, including putting on a music night. So I was there a lot. And I treated all the kids as pretty much as radically as I treated you, because I was like, I'm not going to treat them differently just because they're not my kid. I had to trust in the philosophy. It wasn't just like, because a lot of people say, oh, Vivek, it's your kid. And I'm like, yes, she's awesome, but every kid is awesome. I've never met a kid, ever have I met a kid that isn't awesome. You know, and you and I have that experience when we go out and about together and we see kids. We both see their awesomeness, and the kids just want to follow us home. You know, they're like, oh, these people really get it. All right. So then, all the way from kindergarten up to grade 8, and we have some of the kids were there through the whole journey. I would like to hear a bit about like what your memory of that was, and how it was for you having me around all the time. And how you think it was for the kids to experience an adult that treated them with so much, you know, respect and admiration and all that kind of stuff.
For me, I feel like it was normal because you started from right at the beginning and you were kind of more of a volunteer than my parent in the classroom.
Right.
For the kids, for my friends and kids at the school, I could see a little bit of a change in them, I guess, now looking back, because I can compare it to other people and stuff. They seemed a little bit more accepting of themselves, I guess, because you treated them so radically and everything, taught them the values you had in a way that wasn't obvious teaching, and the self-respect you taught them and me and stuff, you taught them in the same way. And everything. Yeah. And you gave them the humanization and respect that they deserve as well. All through the school when they didn't get it from... My elementary school was great. They didn't always get it in high school or middle school.
Sure, it had a big impact on them. They even now they ask about me when they see you. Yeah. Which is nice. I like that. And yeah, so you know, it's interesting to see that that kids, to a large degree, they don't get humanized very much, right? They actually get the opposite message a lot. Yeah. And I did my best when I was around them to do that. I tried to get the teachers on board too, because I didn't want the teachers, because it's natural when you're a teacher and you're working, and then this, you know, radical guy comes in and all the kids just love him, and sometimes they would follow me around. You know that?
Sorry, we just did the same thing.
We did. Yeah, I love it. That was funny. That reminds me of us playing rock paper scissors. One time we played rock paper scissors, and literally 12, 13 times went by. It was a tie every single time. And at one point, Vise just started doing rock. Do the Bart Simpson thing. Trust the old rock. Nothing beats rock. Nothing beats rock. And eventually through the game. Well, we were like great. So in sync. That was a good one. I think I wrote a blog post about that actually. What was I talking about?
Students in school, getting teachers on board.
Oh, getting the teachers on board. I didn't want, because when this radical guy comes in and all the kids loved me so much, understandably, you know, because I was treating them with so much respect and empathy, and it's not only respect and empathy. Like every single kid that was in front of me was the most amazing being in the universe in that moment, you know, and they felt that from me. I was like, this is amazing. I remember this one kid. One of the classes that I was teaching was a advanced math and science class. I taught a remedial math and science class and an advanced math and science class. I really enjoyed that, once a week for both classes. And I remember I was teaching the advanced class at one point, and I was teaching something, and some other kid that I knew from maybe one of the sports teams or something stuck their head in, and then walked out, realizing what we were doing, and said, "I'm just a stupid," something like that. And I remember I chased her down the hallway. I said, "Hey, we have a zero tolerance of bullying in this school." She was like, "I wasn't bullying anyone." I said, "Yes, I just heard you bully yourself." And she was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, you just called yourself stupid." She said, "Well, I am stupid." I said, "No, math is not that important, kid. Let me tell you. Yeah. I mean, yes, I like it, but it's not that important. You know, it doesn't make a person better or worse. No. So you can add two numbers. So what? Who cares?" And she's like, "Oh." I said, "Well, I bet you there's something that you can do better than anyone else in school." And she goes, like, she knew right away there was something. Yeah. I said, "I don't even know what it is." Yeah. But I saw that look on your face. She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Whatever that is, that's your fire. That's your power. That's your spark. You know, that's what you're here to give to the world. You can do it. You don't need to know math, man. Forget about it." She was like, she just skipped away after that, you know. That's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I wish I remember who she was. I don't remember who that was. But yeah, I think I can see how those kind of things would have a big effect on those kids, and I'm glad to see that you kind of could notice it as well. Yeah, I think because I mean in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, it's one thing, but having your dad around in grade 7, 8, and 8,
those are very moldable, malleable years.
Yeah.
As well,
for sure.
And I keep talking about other people than me, even though I should be talking about me. Having you there for those malleable years helped me with what you were saying, as well as the kids that were there as well, because you were teaching them to be kind and like remembering it's the bigger picture and not just the math class kind of thing as well, and that probably helped them a lot in their future years, subconsciously and consciously as well.
And how did it help you?
Same deal.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. Yeah. I guess the bigger picture, remembering that the math class isn't what it's all about, kind of deal. It wasn't math for me. It was other things or whatever. Could have been friends. It could have been like an injury or something during a sports class or something, or a sport or whatever. Yeah. But one of those things, it's like, it's not the end of the world. It's just that one deal that will be over hopefully soon.
Right.
And then I can heal from whatever the trauma was and then go on to the next thing. Or the same thing, but with more knowledge because of what just happened.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Someone said, "Is that where all your hair went at some point?" And I laughed.
Yes, it's definitely that. It's definitely that. It's good to read these, actually. Back and forth, sharing and learning. Yes, it's very beautiful. You do the grocery thing even when Vietz is not there, and I always smile knowing you are being true to your kid. Right. Oh, picking up stuff.
Yeah.
That's right. It's so true. Even when I was in San Diego in 2018, and we were in the Walmart together with the family that hosted me there. And because, by the way, I do live in coaching sometimes, maybe not during COVID, but like as things get better, I actually move in with the family for a couple of weeks. This family was 2 weeks, and we lived together for 2 weeks, coaching morning to night. And at one point, I passed this loaf of bread on the floor in the Walmart, and we went 2 aisles over, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I was tugging at me the whole time, and I went all the way back and picked it up. And then I told that story later
so
on.
Funny.
Yeah, it was great. I am curious about one more thing. I'm curious about a lot of things because I like hearing how you think, you know, because for me, it's like, from my perspective, right? Like, you were this big at some point, holding you like this, and I held you like kind of like a football, and we just walk around the hall together like that. And then watching, but knowing you were a baby, but also seeing you fully conscious. You know, this is the thing that I just knew in those days. I won't take any credit for it. I just somehow knew. But I saw you as fully conscious. And even now when I interact with babies, they're like, oh, this guy actually sees me as fully conscious. And I have full conversations with them, and they understand. It's amazing.
Totally.
So, but then wanting to pass on my values to you, not in a way that I was imposing them on you, but just showing them to you and saying, here are some things you can consider. And then from the early days, you would take stuff in, and you would like go away and think about it for a few days. This is exactly what you said, and you come back to me and say, "This is what I think," and I'd be like, "Fantastic! That's what I love that," you know. And you'd really process it. Like when you got your first tattoo, first time you asked me about it, we actually didn't know you weren't allowed to get it at 14, so that would have solved the problem right there.
Yeah.
But we didn't know, and I said, you know what? At 14, the thing that you get tattooed you might not want it when you're 18, because between 14 and 18 you change a lot. I said, but if you're really sure, we'll just do it, you know. And so you went away for like 2 or 3 days, and you came back and said, I'm going to wait a couple more years. And then when you were 17, before you got to be 18, you said, I'm ready. I want a happy face. I'm never going to not like happy faces. Which means you also remembered it all those years that was the reason for it, and you waited for the moment that you knew was right. I
don't ever remember this.
I know.
It feels like me.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it.
Yes, well, I was the experimenter, and you were the experimentee.
True.
So...
You have to write down your findings and hypotheses
exactly.
so you can remember.
Exactly. Yeah. And so now, I don't know where I was going with that, but now I'm teaching this stuff, you know, to hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people. Thank you so much to everybody who listens to me and the wild ideas that I teach. And they are pretty wild ideas. Don't punish your kids. But like, don't even like set a limit. You know, don't tell them they can't do this anymore. Don't take the thing away. Well, when I do that with young people, and I still do it sometimes because I fall back in or I get afraid or whatever. I always feel bad. I'm like, okay, learn from that, Vivek. Learn from that. So I teach that stuff, and I teach it publicly, and I talk about you a lot. I mean, always with consent, because we always, ever since you were young, we've always talked about that.
Consent is important.
Very important. And I've been very careful about that all through the years. Even if you give me consent, and then I'm like, this feels maybe it's more personal than usual, I'll come to you and I'll say that, right?
Yeah.
But you've always wanted me to share this stuff. It's always been important to you. So I'm curious how you feel about what I share and the fact that I share it and what that and kind of your part in it. Like, what is that for you? That's a very general question, but what comes up?
I think it's very important you sharing this stuff because you can see the change in the kids and stuff, and molding the next generation to be better is always the goal, kind of thing. And I think it's just important. That's the best way for me to say it. Right. It's important to share the knowledge that you have and all your colleagues and everyone have, because y'all have very great ideas and concepts and all that. Yeah,
and how do you feel about being somewhat in the public eye for much of your life? Yeah.
I don't have to do any talking,
That's true.
So I'm pretty okay with it.
Until now.
Yeah. Even this isn't too much.
Right.
And it's not too hard to do, thankfully.
Yeah.
Very less nerve-wracking than I expected.
Good.
It's fine. Yeah. It's still not as much talking and having to think as need be that you have to do.
Right.
So I'm pretty okay with being in the spotlight in a way.
Yeah, for sure. Ever since you were young, I would make sure that any story I wanted to tell, that I would check with you first. And you always seem to have this sense like you knew the importance of it. You know, I didn't post any pictures of you until you were 18. You even posted pictures of you before I did. But stories and stuff I would tell, and then some stuff I would, I wasn't sure about. But I always felt like you really had that sense that we were really doing, even when you were very young, before I was sharing this stuff, we had this sense that we were doing something that was important, and that was gonna, even when you were like a kid, your mom and I would have this sense that we were doing something that was gonna have an impact on the world, and so even we weren't doing anything about it. We were just kind of getting through stuff, getting through life and stumbling with that purpose,
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was always really something that we thought was going to be a big deal, and so a lot of your life is displayed. And I've always been really grateful that you've felt that way, because it's really I feel like everything we do has been something that we've done together. I also am grateful when you say that one maybe I don't want shared, because then I know you're really honoring yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest messages that I have always tried to share with you, is to honor yourself. And yeah, I mean, is that something that feels natural for you, the honoring of self? Is that something that you struggle with sometimes?
Yes, both.
Yes to both?
Yeah. I try as best as I can to honor myself. Sometimes you can't because of circumstances. Sometimes you forget to because you feel like you don't deserve it or something. Or it's not right, even though it would probably benefit you in the long run. Yeah. I think so. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I feel like I got most of what I needed to say there.
I think you did. And honoring yourself, a lot of people say, I wasn't going to talk about this. This kind of goes back to the stuff we talked about at the beginning around consequences and stuff. But a lot of people say if you teach a kid always honor yourself, they're going to end up being selfish and only think of themselves. And I've always said I think that it's really insecurity that makes us do those kind of things. But I can also see the logic of it from looking at things on the surface. I'm curious how you respond to that idea.
My favorite thing to say about myself is that I'm the most selfish person I know. I try to do everything to benefit me, but the things that benefit me is making other people happy. So I try to better myself to make other people smile more, to have that better day a little bit and everything like that.
Right.
So I love being selfish to help myself out and heal myself and also make other people smile, which also benefits me because I love seeing the smiles on other people's faces. I've brightened their day because they were having a bad week or something. This 1 hour they or whatever they spent with me is really nice. That one smile, the eye contact. Smiles are a little harder with masks right now, but still that concept kind of thing.
Yeah. And then that actually does something for you.
It makes me happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's bettered my selfish needs of wanting to be happy have been met.
Right.
By making them happy.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And then when you do need to set a boundary, or you do, because you were saying that you and Han are able to say, look, I need some time to myself. So you're able to do that as well.
Yeah. And boundaries are still very important to me as well. And that's part of my selfish needs.
Right.
It's wanting to take care of myself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Selfishness isn't always negative.
Right.
And I think we as a society are starting to learn that. Because you need to be selfish to be able to take care of your mental health and all that as well.
Yeah, there's a selfishness or a self-attending that comes from, wanting to be sustainable through difficult times and resilient, but also having to have positive relationships and be your best in those relationships. And there's a selfishness that comes from insecurity and fear, where you're like pulling back and guarding yourself, which is different than taking space for yourself, right?
Yeah, there's the two different sides of the word selfish.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I like reframing words and ideas. Yeah, for sure. Yesterday when we were doing something over there, and you were telling me something, and then as you were telling me, I got distracted by something that was on the screen, and I wanted you to see it. And I said, "Come look at this." And then at the moment it happened, I noticed that I was less tuned into you, and didn't pay attention to what you were really saying, and kind of drew you out of your momentum and made you focus on my thing, which you did happily enough. And then I noticed, and I said, "Okay, now what we were saying," you went back to it. But that little moment I felt was a disconnecting moment. I figured, I didn't know if you remembered it or not.
I don't.
No. You almost never do when I ask you these questions. And I think part of the reason for that is the majority of our interactions aren't like that. But for me, like when I have a moment like that, I don't let it go away unexamined. Right? It's very much what you were describing, where I'll feel it and I'll let myself feel it. And partly I feel bad, I shouldn't have done that. Then I'm like, fake, how are you going to never do that? You're a human, you've got your own stuff. And I kind of talk myself through it. And then once I get to that point, then I think, okay, now how can I learn from that in the future and do less of that in the future and stay tuned in and notice when I'm tuning out, and so that I don't break that natural flow and connection between us. Because when we talk, we have a fairly natural flow that arises between us, and trusting that, I think, has been something really beautiful. That's why one of my sayings is, I taught my daughter to not interrupt by always allowing her to interrupt.
That's probably why I don't see anything when you interrupt me, because you wanted to just show me as something cool, and then obviously you'll remember after, so it's okay to just continue the conversation after. Right. That makes a lot of sense. You weren't interrupting because you weren't listening. Right. You saw something you wanted to share with me because it was cool. Yeah. And you wanted my attention for that moment. And then after, we'll just continue it, because it's not that hard to continue a conversation that was going on for 5 minutes already.
I appreciate that reframe. Yeah. Thank you. I like that. Yeah. Excellent. All right, my friend. I think we're done. I have 2 questions for you to leave everybody with. Okay. And you can answer them in any order that you want. One is, what do you want parents to know? And the other is, what do you want kids to know? And the horn started just as... This is very important. Pay attention. The horn started.
It's kind of the same answer for both, I guess. And it's really to... I guess... My big thing for myself right now is listening to my body and my mind and what I need right now. So I'd say listen to like your body and needs for what you need to heal yourself at the moment, kind of thing. Stay calm, but your definition of what calm is, kind of thing.
Like centered.
Chill, centered, yeah. Whatever your definition of centered is, whatever your vibe of center is.
I like that. I like that the messages in our body kind of help us guide ourselves back to center.
I feel like if I'm centered, then I'm able to think clearer, and I can differentiate why I'm saying it this way or what I'm feeling this for. Instead of rather than when I'm off center and then everything's kind of leaning towards the negative or leaning towards the positive, where I'm veiling over, putting a little cloth over what's negative at the moment, so I just don't think about it, kind of thing. But when I'm centered, I can see it all, and it's all connected. Everything's all, life is connected in some way.
Right.
System, that's the word. Yeah, everything's a connected system in one way or the other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when you're centered, you can see it.
And for kids too, the same kind of thing.
They don't have as many connecting points in the system, but with them seeing their center, they're able to build new connections through the system, and seeing other people, seeing their model of their parents or their favorite teacher or something, can help build their system connections.
I like that very much. And we can help kids see their center. We can't force connections on them, but we can help them see their center and see our center. Yeah.
And then when you're both seeing your centers together, maybe you can teach each other how to stay there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig that. That's really great. I love you, my kiddo.
Love you too.
This has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
I keep moving out of the Instagram. It's been a great conversation. I'm so glad we did this. I hope we can do it again. I really enjoyed it.
Totally.
And so I hope all of you enjoyed our conversation today. We really enjoyed having you with us. Thank you for all the comments. We really appreciate it. Please share this video around and make more comments. It'll bump it up. And we love you very much. We really do care about your family and your well-being. So I want to invite you to follow me on all my social media, because I am always writing and making videos about our lives and what we're learning and how to help your kids. And so you can follow me at Meaningful Ideas on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and I'm twitting now. And so you can follow me on Twitter too. And YouTube, I have just crossed over 80 parenting videos.
Nice.
I'm very happy about that. And Alanis Morissette shared one of my parenting sayings on Instagram, which was like a couple of years ago, but still, I'm still kind of high over it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And meaningfulideas.com is my website, where you can see my articles, which are mostly from 2015. And if you want to work with me personally and come on weekly coaching calls and weekly meditations, and I do a weekly live where I talk about a gentle parenting topic in a lot of detail, like this last Thursday was transitions and how to help your kids through transitions. I did an hour and hour and a half on transitions, go into a lot of detail. You can join me, and like I said, my business partner Sujai, and the two of us host this space together. It's kind of an area, an online area, and you go to gentleparentsunite.com for that, and Meaningful Ideas for my stuff, and love to you, and we're done.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
See you later.
Peace out. Fist bump.